Okay, so we need to talk about Shallan.
We do.
I promised last week on the podcast, out loud, in front of people.
You did.
And I have thoughts. Many, many thoughts. I've been thinking about this all week. I have the argument organized. I know exactly what I'm going to say.
Okay.
And I know you said you had notes.
I have notes.
How many notes?
More than is probably reasonable.
Natalie, how many notes?
I filled a document.
A document.
Several documents that are also linked to each other. And to a timeline. And to a... It doesn't matter.
You made a timeline?
The Shallan chronology is more complicated than people realise. And if we're going to argue about whether she's the best written character in the Cosmere, we need to be accurate about the timeline of her arc across all 5 books.
Natalie, I love you, but you have a problem.
I have a process.
You have a spreadsheet.
It's colour-coded.
Why?
Because I'm not going to lose this argument by getting a detail wrong, and I refuse to give you the satisfaction of correcting me.
Oh my... Okay, fine. Fine. We're not doing Shallan today.
We're not ready.
I was ready.
I need 2 more weeks.
For your timeline.
And 1 more reread of Rhythm of War.
You are a lot. Do you know that?
I've been told.
Okay. Not Shallan today. But soon. Very soon. Because I have things to say and they need to be said.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. And I'm holding you to that. So, okay. Can I tell you something that happened this week? Because it's connected to something I've been thinking about and now I can't stop thinking about it and I feel like that's probably a sign.
Go.
Okay, so my sister.
Mm-hmm.
She texted me on Tuesday and she was like, I want to start reading Brandon Sanderson. You've been talking about it for literally 5 years. I think it's finally time. And I read that text and I had like this moment of pure joy. Like, yes, finally, she's coming over. And then she asked the question.
The question.
She asked, so where do I start? And I just sat there with my phone for probably a full minute because I genuinely did not know what to tell her.
Yeah.
5 years. 5 years of loving these books. 5 years of recommending them to people. And when my own sister, who I know her tastes, who I know what she loves, asked me where to start, I froze.
What did you tell her?
I sent her 3 different texts and then deleted them all and then called her and talked for 45 minutes and I'm still not sure I gave her the right answer.
You know what's funny?
What?
I think about that question a lot. More than I probably should.
The reading order question?
Not exactly. The question under the question.
Okay, what does that mean?
I'll tell you in a second. I need to think about how to say it without making it sound bigger than it is.
You're doing the thing again.
I'm not doing anything.
You said, I'll tell you in a second, in the same tone you used right before telling me the Cosmere was unadaptable and giving me an existential crisis for a week.
This is less dire than that. Probably.
Probably.
Okay? Here's the thing. Everyone who's been in this fandom for any amount of time has an opinion about reading order. Mistborn first, Stormlight first, publication order, whatever. And those opinions are all fine. They're all defensible. But I don't think anyone is being completely honest about the actual problem.
What do you mean?
I mean, the reading order people recommend, the consensus answer, I think it might be wrong.
Okay, hold on. Wrong how? Because wrong is a strong word for a topic where the answer is basically, it depends.
That's what I mean though. It depends is the answer everyone gives, and I think it's actually the evasion. Because saying it depends doesn't help your sister.
She specifically asked.
What did you tell her?
I told her Mistborn.
Right. And you told her that because...
Because it's the obvious answer. It's more accessible. It's shorter than Stormlight. It has a cleaner 3-act structure. It teaches you to trust Sanderson before he starts asking you to commit to a 1,000,000-page series. I still think that's right.
Maybe. But I want to make a case that it's not obviously right. and that the way the fandom talks about reading order is quietly incomplete, in a way that I think has actually cost us readers.
Cost us readers.
Think about it. How many times have you heard someone say, "I tried Sanderson, it wasn't for me"? And when you ask which book they started with, it's always one of the ones people recommend.
Oh, okay. That has happened more than once.
Because we're recommending based on accessibility, right? We're trying to lower the barrier. But I think, and this is where it gets a little complicated, I think we might be optimizing for the wrong thing.
What's the right thing?
The right question isn't which book is easiest to finish. It's which book is most likely to make someone need to read everything else.
Okay. That's actually a different question.
It's a completely different question. And the answer might not be the same book.
Hold on, because I want to push back on this. Because a book they don't finish doesn't help anyone. So accessibility matters. If someone picks up Way of Kings and quits on page 200 because the world building is dense, and there's a prologue where a guy dies and there are 6 different types of storms and they're not sure they understand any of it.
You love Way of Kings.
I love Way of Kings. It's one of my favorite books. But you tell me with a straight face that you'd hand that book to someone who has never read Sanderson and go, "Here, start here."
I think about it more than you'd expect.
Natalie.
I'm just saying there's an argument.
There is not. Okay, what is the argument? Because I have recommended Mistborn to probably 15 people in the last 5 years, and at least 9 of them finished it, which is a solid success rate for getting people into a massive fantasy universe.
How many of those 9 are now reading Stormlight?
Most of them.
How many?
Like 5? Maybe 6.
So, roughly a third of the people you recommended Mistborn to are now in the Cosmere fully.
That's still good.
It's not bad. But imagine if there was a starting point that grabbed the right people harder, so that even if fewer people started, more of them stuck.
That's a very Natalie theory. Maximize intensity of experience, sacrifice breadth.
It's not a theory yet. It's just a question I can't get out of my head.
Okay, let's actually dig into this. Because I feel like there's something real here, but I also feel like you're about to tell me something I'm not going to like.
Probably.
You keep saying probably.
It's an honest word. All right. Let me actually lay out what I think is happening. Because I've been turning this over for a while, and I think the reading order problem is a symptom of something more fundamental about the Cosmere.
Okay, go.
When someone asks, "Where do I start the Cosmere?" what are they actually asking? Because there are 2 different questions hiding inside that one question.
Okay.
The first question is, which book is the most approachable? The second question is, which book will give me the experience of the Cosmere?
And you think those are different books?
I think they might be. And that the reason this matters is that the Cosmere is not just a collection of books set in the same universe. It's a project. Sanderson has been building something across 30-something books across decades that is designed to pay off in a very specific way. And if you come in through the easiest door, you might get the individual book experience without the Cosmere experience. And then, when someone tells you, "Oh, but it gets so much bigger," they're right, but you've already formed your impression.
Okay, but here's the thing. You said the Cosmere experience, like there's one of those. And I think for most people, the Cosmere experience is just loving one of these books so much that you have to find out what else is there. That's how I got here. I didn't know what a shard was when I finished Mistborn. I didn't know Hoid was going to be in every book. I finished The Final Empire and thought, I want more of this world, and picked up The Well of Ascension. And that was the Cosmere experience. That was the thing that changed me.
And that's a beautiful way to come in. I'm not saying it's wrong.
But
think about what you missed on that first Mistborn read. Think about everything that's happening in that book that you didn't see until you came back later, because you didn't know to look.
Like Hoid.
Like Hoid, who is right there. Who has a whole conversation with Kelsier. Who is at the Lord Ruler's party. who Sanderson put in the book in 2006 as part of a 15-year plan that most first-time readers don't even know is happening. And it's not that the book is worse if you don't know about Hoid. It's still a great book. But there's a version of reading it where you see those details and your brain catches fire. And there's a version where you don't, and the book is just good.
Okay, but you only see those details on a reread or if someone told you to look. You can't start the Cosmere with enough knowledge to appreciate those connections because you wouldn't know what they mean yet.
Right. So the question is, does reading order affect which version of the book you eventually get? And I think it does. Because if you start with Stormlight, if you've spent 1,000 pages on Roshar and you've started to feel that something bigger is happening, and then you go back to Mistborn and meet Hoid in Lutherdale, it hits completely differently.
That's true. I went back to Mistborn after Stormlight, and the Hoid scenes hit so differently when you already know who he is. It's almost jarring, actually. He's just standing there in a scene, and everything in your brain goes, wait.
It's almost not even the same book.
It's almost not. But wait, this is a circular argument though, right? You're saying start with Stormlight so that when you read Mistborn later, the Hoid stuff lands. But Stormlight also has Hoid, Wit, and you don't know who he is when you start there either. So it's the same problem both ways.
Actually, okay, this is the part I find genuinely interesting. The books are designed so that you don't need the Cosmere knowledge to love them individually. Sanderson is really careful about that. You can read Mistborn without knowing about the Cosmere, and it's a complete, satisfying story. You can read Stormlight without knowing about the Cosmere, and it's a complete, epic story. But the overlap between those books, the details that connect them, they're experienced at different intensities depending on what order you do it.
It's like the first time you encounter a reference and you don't get it, and then years later the reference lands and you go back and you're like, oh, that's been there the whole time.
Exactly. Except it's not just a joke landing late, it's the whole architecture of the thing. You come back to a book you've already read and realise Sanderson was gesturing at a shard in every third chapter, and you just weren't reading that layer.
I hate how much I love this argument.
Good.
Okay, but then, if there is no starting point where you get the full experience, if the Cosmere is only fully legible on rereads and crossreads, doesn't that actually mean starting point doesn't matter? Like, if you're going to miss something no matter what you read first, just pick the most enjoyable book and go from there?
That's one conclusion. But I think there's another one.
Which is
that the order affects what you fall in love with first. And what you fall in love with first shapes what you're looking for in everything that comes after. So if you fall in love with Mistborn, you come to Stormlight hoping for that feeling. And Stormlight is not that feeling. It's bigger, it's slower, it's more emotionally ambitious. And some people get there and love it immediately. And some people go, this isn't what I expected, and put it down before it gets good.
Which would explain... Okay, wait. You know the thing where someone says, I loved Mistborn, but I couldn't get into Stormlight, and I don't understand why everyone loves it? That's in every comment section. It's one of the most common things in this fandom.
Yes.
You're saying that's partly a reading order problem.
I'm saying it might be. I'm saying Mistborn, as an entry point, sets certain expectations. About pacing, about scope, about how Sanderson uses his characters. And those expectations don't always map well onto Stormlight Book 1, which asks for a different kind of patience.
Whereas if you start with Stormlight,
you're trained for Stormlight from page 1. You learn how Sanderson breathes. You learn to trust the slow chapters because you felt firsthand that the payoffs are enormous. And then, when you go to Mistborn, it's almost a relief. Faster, more contained, the magic is more immediately legible. You read it like a sprint after a marathon.
Okay, but now you're just making a case for starting with Stormlight, which you know I'm going to fight you on.
I'm making a case that the question is harder than which is more accessible. Accessibility and the right starting point might be different things.
But accessibility is the right starting point if it means a difference between someone finishing the book or not. Actually, can I bring something up? Because we've been talking about Mistborn and Stormlight, like those are the only two options, but that's not actually true. There are other ways in.
There are.
Warbreaker, the Emperor's Soul. Elantris even, technically. People don't talk about those as entry points, but...
Okay, Warbreaker I have opinions about. Big opinions.
Oh, this should be good.
Warbreaker is a fascinating case because it reads completely differently depending on whether you've read Stormlight. If you haven't, it's a great standalone. Two sisters, interesting magic, solid political intrigue.
I love Lightsong so much.
And if you haven't read Stormlight, Vasha is this kind of mysterious, understated character. And Nightblood is this really creepy sword, and it's all very cool. But if you have read Stormlight, if you know who Zahel is, if you know what Nightblood becomes in Oathbringer, the whole book is different. Every single Vasha scene hits on two levels at once.
See, I read Warbreaker before Stormlight, and I remember the moment in Words of Radiance when you realize who Zahel actually is. And it was one of the best moments in my entire Cosmere reading life. That just detonates in your chest.
And if you read Warbreaker after Stormlight, you don't get that exact moment. You already know going in.
So which is better?
I genuinely don't know. And that's kind of my point. There's no order where you get all the good moments. Every path through the Cosmere leaves something on the table.
That's either beautiful or incredibly frustrating.
Why not both?
Okay, I want to actually ask the people listening something here. Because this is the moment. What was your first Sanderson book? And if you started with Mistborn, do you regret it? Or if you started somewhere else and it didn't work, what happened? Because I feel like we need real data here, and we are not the only people with opinions about this.
I'm genuinely curious where people land, because I think the fandom is more split on this than the standard advice suggests. Everyone says Mistborn first, but I have talked to plenty of people who started with Way of Kings and would never have it any other way.
So leave a comment. Where did you start, and was it the right call? And if you started somewhere and you wish you'd started somewhere else, we need that story specifically. We'll talk about the responses next week, right?
Absolutely.
Good. Help us. We're doing research.
Very informal research.
The most informal research. No methodology whatsoever. Okay, but I want to actually do this. Can we actually rank them? Like, sit down and go through every real entry point and figure out which one works for which person. Because I feel like the reason "it depends" is such a useless answer is that nobody ever takes the time to say what it actually depends on.
Sure. Let's do it.
Okay. So we've got, in terms of things you could reasonably hand someone as their first Sanderson experience, Elantris, Mistborn, Warbreaker, The Emperor's Soul, and Way of Kings.
The Emperor's Soul should not be on that list.
Why not?
Because it's a novella. And start with a novella is an insane recommendation.
But it's so good. It won a Hugo. It's the most perfectly crafted thing he's written in terms of pure craft per page.
I agree that it's brilliant. I'm saying handing someone a novella as their introduction to a 30-book universe is a weird move. Here, try this short one. And if you like it, please commit the next 4 years of your reading life to this. The tonal jump is enormous.
Okay, fair. But I feel like Emperor's Soul is secretly the perfect litmus test. If someone reads it and goes, meh, they were never going to love Sanderson. But if they read it and go, I need more of whatever this is, then you know you've got them.
That's actually not a bad point. It's the most concentrated version of what Sanderson does. The magic, the philosophy built into the magic, the character work, it's all there in 80 pages. But most people pick up novellas expecting short stories, not Sanderson density. I've seen people bounce off it just because they weren't ready for how compressed it is.
So it's on the list with an asterisk. Proceed with caution.
Recommend people who already trust you completely and will read whatever you hand them, which slightly defeats the purpose of an intro rec.
Fine. Asterisk. Elantris.
Elantris is... I hate to say this, because it was my first Sanderson book.
Wait! Elantris was your first Sanderson?
It was his first published novel. I found it in a bookstore, this was a while ago, and grabbed it because of the premise and liked it and read Mistborn after.
I had no idea. Why have you never told me this?
It's not my proudest reading journey. I didn't realise what I was getting into. I thought he was just a normal fantasy author who wrote normal-sized books.
That's the funniest.
I finished Elantris and thought, okay, good book, what's next? And I did not understand that what's next was going to become a lifestyle.
When did you realize?
Halfway through The Well of Ascension, when I looked at my shelf and realised I'd bought 4 Sanderson books in 3 weeks.
That's exactly how it starts. That's the precise mechanism.
Anyway, Elantris. It's his first published book, and you can feel it. It's a younger Sanderson. The plotting is tighter, but the character work is nowhere near as complex as what came later. It's not a bad book, but I cannot recommend it as someone's first experience, because if that's your only data point for who Sanderson is, you're missing his actual strengths. You might not even pick up Mistborn.
So Elantris is valid, but only if you already know it's not representative.
It's the chronologically correct answer and one of the worst answers, which is maybe the most ironic thing about his publication history.
Okay. Warbreaker.
Warbreaker, I genuinely think, is underrated as an entry point, with one caveat. It requires you to go in knowing that the magic system is strange, and Sanderson is going to explain it over the course of the book, not up front. People who need to feel oriented in the first chapter struggle with Nalthian world building in the opening pages. But the payoff, Lightsong's whole arc, the way the magic interacts with the ending. Fascia, it's spectacular.
And it's way shorter than Stormlight.
It's way shorter than Stormlight. That's doing a lot of work in this conversation.
I feel like Warbreaker is the recommend to people who are readers, but not usually fantasy readers book. Like, if someone reads literary fiction and they're skeptical about genre...
Yes. Actually, yes. Because the character dynamics have real weight, the magic doesn't feel like D&D, and Lightsong is interesting even if you couldn't care less about the magic system.
Warbreaker for the literary fiction person who's testing the waters. I'm writing that down.
Please do. This is the research.
Okay. Mistborn.
The obvious answer, which I've already said might not be the right answer.
Which I still think is the right answer.
The case for Mistborn is obvious, and it's obvious for good reasons. Brilliant premise. The most immediately understandable magic in the entire Cosmere. Vin, who is one of the best fantasy protagonists of the last 20 years, and it's a complete story. You don't need to read anything else. It doesn't end on a cliffhanger. It ends. People who are nervous about committing to something enormous feel safer starting with a trilogy they can finish and close.
And it works. I'm not going to pretend the success rate is 0. Most of my successful recommendations were Mistborn first.
I'm not arguing. It doesn't work. I'm arguing it might not be optimal.
Which brings us to Way of Kings, which you are clearly building toward and have been this entire episode.
I'm not saying Way of Kings is the best starting point for everyone.
But you're thinking it.
I'm not thinking it.
You are impossible.
The case for Way of Kings as a starting point is complicated, but I want to make it. Can I make it?
Oh God. Fine. Go ahead.
It deserves a proper argument.
I'm going to regret this.
Okay, here's what I actually think, and I need you to hear the whole argument before you react.
I'm known for my patience.
You're known for the opposite of patience.
Fair. I'm listening.
I think The Way of Kings is the correct starting point for anyone who is going to become a serious Cosmere reader. Not for everyone, not for casual readers, not for people who want to dip a toe in, but for the person who is going to read all of this. Who is going to go through the whole Cosmere and come out the other side a different person? Way of Kings is where that person should start.
Okay. Why?
Because A Way of Kings is the truest version of what Sanderson is. It's him operating at full capacity with no ceiling. The other books, Mistborn, Warbreaker, Elantris, they're all brilliant, but they're Sanderson with constraints. Shorter, tighter, more focused. Way of Kings is Sanderson without any of that. It's the book where he committed to something so enormous that when it works, and it works, there is nothing else in fantasy that feels like it.
Okay, but you're literally describing why it's hard to recommend to new readers. This is the most ambitious, most demanding thing he's written. You should start here. That's not a recommendation, that's a challenge.
Maybe that's okay. Maybe the people who respond to that challenge are exactly the readers who are going to love this the most.
And the people who don't?
Then they start with Mistborn, and they love it, and that's wonderful. I'm not saying don't recommend Mistborn. I'm saying, if someone comes to you and says, I want to love these books the way you do, I want to fall into them completely, I want the full thing. Way of Kings might actually be the honest answer, and we're too scared to give it.
Too scared.
Because we're worried they won't finish it. Because page counts are scary. Because if we send someone to a 1,000-page book and they bounce off it, we feel responsible. And I think that fear, that very reasonable, very kind fear, is making us give recommendations designed to protect the reader instead of challenge them. And Sanderson's books are not designed to be safe. They're designed to be extraordinary.
Okay, I hear that. And there's something in it I don't totally disagree with. But you're making an argument that only works in retrospect. You know you're going to love Way of Kings. You're recommending it to someone who doesn't know that yet. And if they pick it up and hit page 250 and they're not hooked, and some people genuinely aren't, not because they're wrong, but because the pacing is slow in ways that not every reader connects with. They walk away thinking the Cosmere isn't for them. And that person might have loved Mistborn. You just never gave them the chance.
So you'd rather they loved Mistborn than potentially loved Stormlight?
I'd rather they loved something than walked away from the whole thing. You're gambling. You're recommending the biggest, hardest book because you believe in it. And I think that's beautiful, and I also think it's slightly reckless.
You think my reading recommendations are reckless?
I think your reading recommendations are you. You walked into a bookstore, grabbed Elantris cold, and ended up building color-coded timelines about fictional characters. Not everyone is you, Natalie.
That's a fair point.
Thank you.
I still think there's something to what I'm saying about what we're trying to do when we make these recommendations.
Okay, and this is what actually matters to me. I don't think we should be trying to create any particular kind of reader. I think we should be trying to let people find what they love. And maybe they fall in love with the scope of Stormlight. And maybe they fall in love with Vin's arc in Mistborn. And maybe they fall in love with Light Song's humor in Warbreaker and never even get to Stormlight, and that's fine too. The Cosmere isn't a curriculum. It's not something you complete. It's something you find your way into.
I actually love that.
I have moments.
Okay, here's where I actually land. Not start with Way of Kings as a blanket statement, but the question we should be asking when someone says, where do I start, is not what's the easiest book. It's what kind of reader are you?
Yes! That's what I've been...
Not exactly. Because you said it depends, which is the cop-out. I'm saying we need to actually ask the question out loud. If someone comes to you and says, I want to start the Cosmere, you ask them two things. What kind of fantasy have you loved before? And how much do you want to be challenged?
And based on those answers...
Mistborn for people who want a complete arc, a clear magic system, a story that doesn't ask for more than it gives. Way of Kings for people who want to be undone, who want a book to take weeks and come out of it feeling like those weeks meant something.
And Warbreaker for people who are nervous about fantasy in general and need something with a human scale.
And Emperor's Soul for
people who trust you completely and will read literally whatever you hand them.
Yes, that's the exact criteria.
Okay, this is good. We're actually getting somewhere. I like this better than it depends. I want to note for the record that I still think Mistborn is the correct default. Like, if someone doesn't tell you anything about themselves and just asks, where do I start? Mistborn. First book. That's my answer and I stand by it.
I think you're right about the default. I've been arguing against it because I think the default hides the actual conversation we should be having. But as a starting point when you have no information, Mistborn is a reasonable safe bet.
High praise from you.
Reasonable safe bet is high praise from me.
Okay. And I mean this. This is the moment where we need you to settle this. Are you Team Mistborn first? Team Stormlight from the jump? Or are you in the Warbreaker sleeper pick camp that Natalie has apparently been secretly running? And if you started somewhere and you wish you'd started somewhere else, that story specifically, we need that. Drop it in the comments. We will absolutely talk about it next week. And if you're new here and you're somewhere in the middle of your first Sanderson journey, first of all, you're going to be okay. Second of all, you're going to be devastated. Those two things are both true.
Simultaneously.
At the same time forever. Welcome. Okay, I feel like we got somewhere.
We got somewhere.
I'm still not sure we answered my sister's question.
What did she say? After your 45-minute phone call?
She said she'd try Mistborn, which is what I told her the third time. After recommending Stormlight and then immediately walking it back.
You recommended Stormlight first?
For about 40 seconds. Before I remembered, it's 1,000 pages and she has a newborn.
You almost handed a woman with a newborn The Way of Kings as her first Sanderson book.
I panicked! I was excited! She's reading Mistborn now. She texted me yesterday. She's on chapter 12. She said, and I'm quoting exactly, she said, "This is very heisty."
That's the best possible reaction.
Right? She doesn't know any of the Cosmere vocabulary. She doesn't know what allomancy is called. She just thinks it's a very heisty book and she's having a good time.
She's going to be devastated when the heist goes wrong.
She's going to be devastated. And she's going to call me at 2 a.m. and I'm going to have my phone on silent.
You absolutely will not.
I absolutely will not. You know what I keep thinking about though? From everything we talked about today?
What?
None of us got here the right way. Like, you started with Elantris, which by your own admission is not the entry point you'd recommend to anyone. I started with Mistborn because someone gave me a used paperback and I had nothing else to read on a long train ride. Nobody optimized their way into loving these books. We just found them, by accident mostly.
That's true.
So maybe the thing we should actually be telling people is, it doesn't matter that much where you start. What matters is that you pick one up. Because if you're the kind of person who's going to love the Cosmere, you're going to find your way there eventually. And if you're not, no reading order is going to fix that.
I think that's right. And I also think it makes everything we just spent an hour discussing slightly moot.
Only slightly.
Not moot. The nuances still matter. But yes, the version of us in 10 years is going to recommend different books, in a different order to different people. And some of them are going to love it and some of them aren't. And that's okay. The Cosmere is big enough to be found from 100 different doors.
100 different doors.
The question is, which door leaves you least likely to turn around before you find out what's inside?
And the answer is?
The one that makes you want to open the next door.
Yeah? That's it, isn't it? That's the whole argument we've been having.
That's the whole argument.
I'm going to text my sister and tell her to brace for chapter 34.
Don't you dare spoil her.
I'm not going to spoil her. I'm just going to say chapter 34 is a thing, just to emotionally prepare her.
That is spoiling her.
It's preparing her. There's a difference. Next week we're going to... Okay, I'm not going to say what it is yet. I have a thought that's been sitting in the back of my head since the middle of Block 3, and I think it deserves its own episode.
Are you going to tell me what it is?
No.
Fantastic. I love finding out on the day.
It'll be good. Trust me.
Shallan is still happening.